In this lecture, we're going to take a look at the male reproductive system. Now, the purpose of this lecture is to describe the location, structure, and functions of the male genital system. Also, we're going to examine spermatogenesis in the testes. So let's start off with looking at the pathway of spermatozoa. Now, spermatozoa are going to form within the testes, within the seminiferous tubules, which you can't see in this picture, but let's bring this one up, and you can see the seminiferous tubules here. Then it's going to move its way to the epididymis, and so let's take a look at that picture, and right here's the epididymis. Next, it's going to move through the ductus deferens or vas deferens, and then finally into the ejaculatory duct, and then into the urethra, through the penis. Now, I do have a mnemonic to help you remember this, and it's going to be 7-up. So let's take a look. The S, of course, is for the seminiferous tubules found within the testes. The E, you guessed it, the epididymis. The V is for vas deferens. Again, that's an older term. The newer books are calling it ductus deferens, but most people still refer to it as the vas deferens. The next one is, again, from the vas deferens down to the ejaculatory duct. The N, well, there is no N. That's just so that we could use the mnemonic 7-up. So we're going to go next to the urethra. And then, so here's the prostatic urethra, into the membranous urethra, into the penile urethra, and then finally through the penis. Accessory organs, we're going to have the seminal vesicles, which are right here. The prostate gland, right here. And then the bulbourethral gland. The scrotum is the sac that encloses the testes, and then the penis. Now, when the male fetus is forming, the testes are actually going to be way up in the abdomen, up by the kidneys. Okay? And so it's going to move its way down through the abdomen, but it doesn't get pulled down there. And we have this little connection here, this like tether called the gubernaculum testis. And again, it's going to be attached down into the scrotum. But again, this does not pull the testes down. So when we talk about the testes descending, they really don't descend as much as the fetus grows, but the gubernaculum testis stays the same size. And so as the body grows, this staying the same size is going to pull the testis with it. And so you can see here that the gubernaculum testis is about 5 millimeters in length. Okay, and again, this is a 2-month-old fetus. It's going to be about the size of a peanut. Okay, very small. At 3 months, you can see that the fetus has gotten bigger, but the gubernaculum testis is still 5 millimeters. And then finally at birth, again, it's still 5 millimeters, but it's managed to pull the testis down into the scrotum. Okay, so again, it says movement of the testes through the inguinal canal into the scrotum occurs during fetal development, and the testes remain connected to the internal structures, such as the spermatic cord, for instance. And looking at it from a heads-on view here, we have, again, the gonads. These have not differentiated yet. Okay, if we have the right chromosomes, here we go. Here's the testes. And again, you can see just how large they are within the abdomen. And then here's a 4-month fetus. Again, this is all fetus at this point. Fetus is getting much larger, as you can see, comparing until about 7th month. It's almost ready. It's going through the inguinal canal, basically. And then at birth, they should descend the rest of the way and be pulled into the scrotum. If this does not happen, we have a condition called cryptorchism. Okay, cryptorchism. And this is going to have to be, the testes are going to have to be descended surgically. If they're not, there's a high risk of testicular cancer. So surgically, they will have to be brought down into the scrotum. In the musculature of the scrotal sac, we have a couple of muscles here. The dartos muscle, which helps to wrinkle the scrotal sac. And you can see right here, this would be the dartos muscle. Okay. And then the cremaster muscle. Okay. And this is going to help pull the testicle up closer to the body. It also helps to protect the testes. And also both of these, though, are for thermoregulation. Okay, so testes have to remain at a certain temperature in order to produce sperm. And if it's too cold, then these muscles will contract to pull the testes up closer to the body. When it's warm, they'll relax. And in this picture, we can see the dartos muscle. And that's kind of a cross section through both testes, through the scrotum. Okay. We have the cremaster muscle. We also have what's called the tunica albuginea. Tunica albuginea, it means white tunic, basically. It surrounds the testes. And then we're going to have these septa, which extend from the tunica albuginea, and they are going to create these lobules that we're going to find the seminiferous tubules within. Now, in the seminiferous tubules, we're going to find interstitial cells, which are going to be found between the seminiferous tubules. And again, we can see the seminiferous tubules. We can't see those interstitial cells in this particular picture. And these are going to secrete sex hormones, so basically testosterone. And sperm is going to go from the seminiferous tubules. Again, it's going to pass up into what's called the ret testis. So right here, ret testis. And then from there, it's going to go to the efferent ductals, which connect the ret testis to the epididymis. And you can see right here would be the epididymis. Okay. So again, in the seminiferous tubules, just to kind of recap a little bit, this is where sperm is produced, and it matures to a point to where it can swim. Okay, it still has some more maturation to go. So again, it's gonna, once it matures enough to be able to swim, it'll go again from the seminiferous tubule to the ret testes to the epididymis, where it's going to functionally mature. And this is a look inside the seminiferous tubule. Again, we have spermatogonium, which will then become primary spermatocyte, and then eventually the secondary spermatocyte, and then the spermatids, which are going to begin spermiogenesis. And again, here are spermatids completing spermiogenesis. You can see the tail. And as I mentioned, when they leave here, they're going to wind up in the epididymis, where they're going to functionally mature. Now, to talk about spermatogenesis, I thought it was best if we just take a look at a video.
Spermatogenesis is the production of male gametes, or sperm cells. The two testes are the sites of spermatogenesis, or sperm production. Within the testes, the specific sites of spermatogenesis are the walls of the seminiferous tubules. Spermatogenesis begins with the spermatogonia cells at the onset of puberty. Following DNA replication during interphase, spermatogonia are diploid stem cells having 46 sister chromatids, or 92 DNA molecules. Stem cells are less differentiated cells that can undergo mitotic cell division, thus producing cells that undergo further differentiation. One daughter cell stays near the basement membrane and remains a stem cell. The other daughter cell loses contact with the basement membrane. Upon losing contact with the basement membrane, the second daughter cell is squeezed through the tight junctions formed by the Sertoli cells. This daughter cell undergoes biochemical changes and differentiates into a primary spermatocyte. Each primary spermatocyte has the same number of chromosomes as a spermatogonia cell. Each primary spermatocyte enlarges, and the first meiotic cell division begins. As a result of the first meiotic division, two haploid secondary spermatocytes are formed. Each secondary spermatocyte has 23 chromosomes. Since each chromosome has two sister chromatids, each cell contains 46 DNA molecules. All of the secondary spermatocytes undergo the second meiotic division. As a result of the second meiotic division, 4 haploid spermatids are formed. Each haploid spermatid has 23 chromosomes. However, since each chromosome consists of only one chromatid, one copy of DNA, then each spermatid contains 23 DNA molecules. The final stage of spermatogenesis is spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis is the maturation of haploid spermatids into sperm, also termed spermatozoa. There are a number of changes that happen to spermatids during spermiogenesis. The spherical spermatids turn into longer, slender sperm. An acrosome develops on the side of the nucleus, which condenses and elongates. A flagellum also develops, and mitochondria multiply. Finally, the sperm cells are released from their connections to Sertoli cells and enter the lumen of the seminiferous tubule. Sertoli cells secrete fluids that nutritionally support sperm, as well as drive them along the seminiferous tubule toward the epididymis.
Let's take a look at the anatomy of a spermatozoa. Each spermatozoa has a head, okay, so a nucleus and densely packed chromosomes are found in the head. Also has an acrosome, which has an enzyme in it that is needed in order to actually penetrate the egg. Has a neck. And then we come down to the middle piece here. Middle piece is part of the tail, but the middle piece has the mitochondria that's going to produce the ATP needed to move the tail. Okay, and then the tail itself here is the only flagellum in the human body. Okay, and again, this is going to be for locomotion. and this is going to allow the sperm to move. Now, the testes produce mature spermatozoa, and sperm that enter the epididymis. The epididymis, by the way, is the elongated tubule with a head, body, and tail region. So here's the head. Here is the body. Here's the tail region. And again, this is going to monitor and adjust fluids within the seminiferous tubules, and it's going to store and protect the spermatozoa, and it facilitates functional maturation of the spermatozoa, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, the ductus deferens, or vas deferens, as most people know it, starts right here. It begins at the epididymis. It's going to come up and it's going to pass through an area in the abdominal wall that's called the inguinal canal. Okay, the inguinal canal. And you can see again how it comes up through the inguinal canal. It's going to wrap over the urinary bladder, come over the ureter. Okay, and let's just take this area and look at it from behind. And so here it is, the vas deferens or ductus deferens, and then you have this ampulla. See where it enlarges? So again, this is going to be the ampulla of the vas deferens. And then the ejaculatory duct is going to be right here. So you have the seminal vesicle and the ampulla of the ductus deferens or vas deferens emptying into the ejaculatory duct, which then empties into the prostatic urethra. Now, the male urethra is going to have three regions to it. We have, going through the prostate gland here, the prostatic urethra. Going through the urogenital diaphragm, we have the membranous urethra. And then the rest of the way going through the penis is either going to be called the penile urethra or the spongy urethra. And the reason it's called the spongy urethra is because it's going to be surrounded by the corpus spongiosum. Corpus, a corpse is a body. Corpus means body, so it's the spongy body. And looking at the accessory glands, the first one is going to be the seminal vesicles, and right here we can see the seminal vesicles here and here. These are active secretory glands. They contribute to about 60% of total volume of semen, and its secretions contain fructose, prostaglandins, and fibrinogen. Looking at the prostate gland right here, it's going to secrete a slightly acidic prostatic fluid. And then here's the bulbourethral gland that secretes an alkaline mucus with lubricating properties. In the contents of semen, typical ejaculate is about 2 to 5 milliliters of fluid, which contains about 20 to 100 million spermatozoa per milliliter. And the seminal fluid is a distinct ionic and nutritive glandular secretion to help sustain the sperm. Looking at the male external genitalia, it's going to consist of the scrotum and the penis. The penis contains 3 masses of erectile tissue. We have 2 corpora cavernosum. Again, corpora means body, like a corpse. This is the cavernous body. We have 2 there with a central artery. And then we have 1 corpus spongiosum, the spongy body, and that contains the urethra. And dilatation of the erectile tissue produces an erection. Hormones, FSH is follicle stimulating hormone. Now, typically when you think of follicle stimulating hormone, think about the female reproductive system, where this is going to stimulate the production of an egg. So what would be analogous to the egg in a male? Sperm. So this targets sustentacular cells to promote spermatogenesis. Luteinizing hormone causes secretion of testosterone and other androgens. And then gonadotropic releasing hormone is what's going to be produced by the hypothalamus to tell the pituitary gland to secrete gonadotropins, which stimulates the testes to produce testosterone. And testosterone is the most important androgen. And that concludes this lecture.